Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stats podcast. For today, we're going over UFC Vegas 83. First things first, make sure you give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is a Stats and Stacks podcast. Weird week last week. On paper, per Twitter, not a great week. We lost one of our locks. The other one got canceled, so not just overall not a good looking week. However, all of the unofficial bets and all of the ones and the reason we get this breakdown all hit. The only fight that we got wrong were the main event, where I just took a dog shot on Beneil Dariush and our lock in Punahani. And no one saw Punahali Soriano losing that fight. I don't know what version of Puna showed up that night. Unfortunately, it was not a winning Puna that showed up, but you can't control that. There's nothing you can do there. There were slam KOs, there were a whole bunch of stuff. But a lot of these where I didn't have the right fighter, I did have the method, like the overs, I had the unders, I had a whole bunch of stuff going on to where everything worked out. It was a very, very, very profitable week last week. It's just the lock didn't hit, so we could have been monumentally huge if Puna would have came through. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, if you win money, we're happy. This week is going to be just as hard. Usually the weeks before a pay-per-view and the weeks after the pay-per-view are just kind of throwaway cards. This one was supposed to be in China, so they knew it'd be a throwaway card, so they were just going to have all their Asian fighters. They know that they were going to be very, very low level. It was going to be interesting, but the crowd would be behind it because they were in China. However, they weren't able to go to China, so now you had all these Chinese fights that got sent to the Apex, and a lot of these Chinese fighters didn't have work visas or weren't able to travel or things of that magnitude. So they lost like 4 or 5 fights right off the get-go. Then you have other fights that filled the void, and like a Daniel Marcos couldn't get against Vega or whatever his name was, Carlos Vega. They weren't able to make it over because of work and visa issues. So you had even fights that were just thrown on here that didn't make it. So I'm done rambling. It's one weird card. A lot of these fighters not fighting at their weight class. I always make jokes about if the UFC still made like a title for each pay-per-view like they used to do, what would this card would be UFC Vegas 83 weight class question mark, because I don't even know where some of these people are fighting. It's all over the place. It's going to be a lot to handle. Buckle up, get ready, enjoy the fucking ride. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna pull it up here. I mean, the first fight of the night on paper is where these people are always gonna fight in the UFC. However, we have Ryan Dos Santos at minus 160 going up against Talita Talita Alankar at plus 140. Over 2.5 is minus 190. Under 2.5 at plus 140. And the reason the weight classes are weird right off the get-go is the fact that Ryan Dos Santos, her last fight was at anim weight in Invicta. So generally this girl wants to fight at 105 pounds, but the UFC doesn't have a 105-pound division, so she's forced to go up to 115, and here she is. She's going to make her UFC debut. She's going to have although she generally fights at 105, she's the larger girl. She's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here. She's fought a pretty decent level of competition, especially, kind of the cream of the crop at anim weight. She fought on Contender Series up at 115. Her problem is she ran into Denise Gomes, who's an absolute killer, but she showed how durable she was. Gomes is knocking out everyone. All of her wins in the UFC are by knockout. And Rand took everything. She lost the fight, but she's durable as all hell. Her jiu-jitsu's not bad. She has a lot of submission wins on her record. Like, she's pretty decent on the ground. Her striking's good. I was honestly kind of shocked at how much I enjoyed her. She was in a 5-round war her last fight, and her cardio checked out. She did not slow down whatsoever. Her striking's good, but it's just she's very patient on the feet. Like, she won't throw a lot, but then she'll throw like a little bit, she'll blitz in a little bit, kind of Veronica Hardy style, but then she'll sit back and relax and throw feint after feint after feint. And sometimes you're like, can you just actually throw the punch instead of feinting? But again, her striking's okay. Her wrestling's okay. Her jujitsu's okay. I would say she's a generalist, but she's a little better than a generalist. She's pretty good, in all honesty. She's just not a 115-pounder, and she's gonna struggle because she's gonna be miniature in this weight class. Here's the crazy thing. Like I said earlier, she's the larger girl. Alan Carr also fought on Contender Series and she went to a draw. And part of the reason she went to a draw is just her cardio, man. On paper, this is the girl that the UFC wanted to win. She is great on the ground. She's a AC, I can never say it, ACCD. I can never say it. World champion. She's a jiu-jitsu world champion. She's very, very, very good on the ground. She's 33 years old and she only has 5 professional fights because she spent her entire year doing jujitsu. Her wrestling, she has an okay single that she'll throw out there, but that's the only takedown I've ever seen her do. I've seen her pull guard, I've seen her shoot a single, and that's it. That's how she gets the fight to the ground. Now, don't get me wrong, she is not a good striker, but she's there to scrap. Like she will throw some heat at you. It's just not very technical, and it's not very often because she does get tired. Her cardio is her issue. She kind of reminds me of like a Jacqueline Armorim. Came in really high credential jiu-jitsu practitioner, but has pretty bad cardio. And Jacqueline figured it out her next fight. She gassed out against Sam Hughes, and then she came back and she won her next fight in the 3rd round, mind you. I'm thinking Ellen Carr might be able to do the same thing. And again, part of the reason she's gassing out is because, like Ryan, she's fighting a lot of girls that are just bigger than her. They're just simply size matters in women's MMA more than other aspects. If you can wrestle as a women's MMA fighter, you're going to do great. If you're just stronger as a women's MMA fighter, you're going to do great. And these two atom weights that always fight at 115 are going to fight each other. So they're finally going to fight someone their own size. Who do I think is going to win? I don't know, man. I think Dos Santos is the all-around better fighter. She has more experience. She's better on the feet. The wrestling is a wash. I would say Ellen Carr is a better jiu-jitsu practitioner, but in regards to like fight IQ and their cardio, everything leans towards Dos Santos. They're both making their debut. I do like Dos Santos more, but here's the problem. A lot of time you watch these young Brazilian girls making their debut, and if they look terrible on fight tape, they come into the UFC and they absolutely crush. You think about Natalia Silva, you think about Vidal, like you think about these girls that look terrible on the or Tyler Santos. Like these girls look really bad on the regional scene. They come into the or sorry, not Tyler Santos, but they come into the regional scene. They look bad on the regional scene. They come in and they crush. On the opposite side of the spectrum, if they look good on the regional scene, sometimes they come in and they don't perform well. The Ariana Lipskis, the Tyler Santos, they look like absolute killers on the regional. They come into the UFC and they're frauds. What do we have here? I think Dos Santos looks really good on the regional scene. So does that mean she's going to come in and be a fraud? I have no idea. I mean, Alan Carr is also Brazilian, so who knows? I'm sketched out. You should probably always just take the underdog when it comes to women's MMA. I'm gonna pick Dos Santos. She is the better fighter. She should get the job done. In regards to a bet, I'm gonna go ahead and bet Dos Santos. Only because it's the first fight of the night and we can rebuild. But I'm scared Alan Carr can go out there and get a W. She is live, but Dos Santos is the better fighter, and I'm going to take the talent here. Next fight of the night is not going to be up for debate. We have Tatsuro Taira at minus 535, went up against Carlos Hernandez at plus 400. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 195. Under 1.5 plus 150. Again, this was a Chinese card. It was supposed to be over seas, and that's why they were going to try to showcase Tatsuro Taira. Kid is good, and when I say kid, I mean kid. He's 14-0 and he's 23 years old. His bread and butter is jiu-jitsu. The dude is phenomenal on the ground, world-class jiu-jitsu. His wrestling's okay, but he seems to muscle everything. He just wants to grab a hold of you, predominantly a body lock, just squeeze really tight, kind of drag you down to the ground. He doesn't shoot a lot of traditional single legs or double legs or anything like that. Yeah, he just wants to muscle everything, and he's kind of jacked, honestly. It doesn't really look very physical imposing here, but when he gets into the octagon, he fills out quite nice for the weight class. So he's usually bigger and stronger, and he can just drag you down to the mat. His striking, I'm actually impressed by his striking. It's not good. But I'm seeing the improvement each and every fight. Again, he's 23 years old, so he has no choice but to get better. I saw him in his first fight against whatchamacallit, Carlos Candelario. His striking didn't look great. CJ Vergara fight, it looked a little better, but again, he wants to take you down. It looked pretty decent in the CJ fight. Jesus Aguilar fight, he just took him down and submitted him, but he looked comfortable on the feet. Now, the Edgar Chairez fight, he got dropped. That's concerning. That did not look good. So is his chin a liability? Possibly, but he doesn't really get hit. And again, he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. He has really low volume, but part of that is because he's not looking to strike. He wants to take you down and he wants to grab your back because he has most of his wins are by rear naked choke. He has some ground and pound finishes, some triangles. He has a few triangles actually, but most of his wins are on top, take you down and just destroy you essentially. And can he do it here against Carlos Hernandez? Absolutely. This is a setup fight. Hernandez has pretty decent striking. He throws a ton of volume. The problem with Hernandez is that he rocks a 66% takedown defense. That is not good going against Tyra, who his sole purpose is to take you down and tap you out. So you think, well, maybe Hernandez has decent jiu-jitsu. It's not terrible. But at the end of the day, it is not Tyra level. And if you are better than him on the ground, you will submit him. I mean, we saw it against Alan Nascimento, took him down and submitted him rather easily. It took him 3 minutes. He can be backed up if you throw some heat at him. He does not like getting hit. He was essentially just brought in to lose to the Asian fighter. That's what was going on here. Hernandez has great cardio. Tyra, he doesn't gas. He doesn't even necessarily slow per se. But he's not the same pace he is in the first round compared to round 3. He doesn't look the same. Hernandez does. Hernandez actually is a really slow starter. He might look better in round 3 than round 1, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, you have someone that is world class on the ground going against someone that's so on the ground with terrible wrestling. This scream setup fight. Tyra's going to absolutely murder Hernandez. And unlike Chairez, who was able to drop Tyra, Hernandez has 0 knockout wins in his entire career. So he's pillow fisted. So not only did they set up Tyra with someone with bad jujitsu and so jujitsu and bad wrestling, he has nothing to worry about on the feet because Hernandez has never knocked out a fly. So at the end of the day, the pick is going to be Tyra. The bet's going to be Tyra. Total setup fight, and that's why it's minus 535. Not a lot of value, but he can anchor every single parlay. Lock of the night. Next fight, we're gonna shoot a shot at the dog. We got Stephanie Egger at plus 130 going up against Luana Santos at minus 155. Over 2.5 is minus 150. Under 2.5 at plus 120. I know Stephanie Egger is a public dog. I don't like that. I hate betting with the public. However, I said earlier, if you are a woman and you are stronger than your opponent, you probably have a little bit of a cheat code here, and that's exactly what Stephanie Egger is. Her striking is non-existent. Talk about people that don't like to get hit. She has a decent little jab on her, but that's just to paw away at you because she does not like getting hit, and she is not good on the feet whatsoever. Her jiu-jitsu is fine offensively. Defensively, she's been submitted a few times. I mean, granted, by good jiu-jitsu practitioners. I mean, Myra Bueno Silva submitted her. I mean, no shame there. The last fight, Russian Ronda knee barring her. That one was a little questionable. I'll give her that. But at the end of the day, she's a good jiu-jitsu practitioner, and she is a judoka. Like, she is a black belt in judo. She can take you down, and she doesn't just like shoot a single or a double. She's doing some crazy throws, Ronda style, to get you down to the ground, and then she's going to use her. She has pretty vicious ground and pound. She has a few ground and pound wins here. And if she can't get that, she tries to sub you, and she has a lot of submission wins. She's a finisher. She has not gone to decision. She has not won a decision in the UFC. She either gets submitted or she finishes you. And there was one fight, her initial short notice fight against Tracy Cortez, that went to decision, where she showed she's durable. She's not going out there and getting knocked out. In fact, she's never been knocked out. But she has lost some decisions, and you can tap her out. So if you're good on the ground, you have potential. But generally, she's on top because she's the better wrestler. And I think in this matchup, she's gonna be the better wrestler. I like Santos. I think Santos is okay. But she's 23 and she fights like it. Tatsuro Taira, he makes some green mistakes because he's so young, but it's hard to when you're just, grappling and just a better jiu-jitsu practitioner. Luana Santos is predominantly a striker. She hits decently hard, has a few knockouts on her record, has some submissions on her record. She loves her knee bars, which is interesting that the last Stephanie Egger fight was a loss via knee bar, so you do have to watch that. But her wrestling is just okay. Her striking's good. She hits hard, but she's a little wild, man. Chin straight up in the air, throwing nothing but hooks. Like, she does not throw anything down the middle. Everything is wide and loopy. She has confidence that she's going to knock you out. She can, but let's, kind of simmer it down a little bit, throw some stuff down the pipe and really do her service. But again, she's 23 years old. She talks about her nerves. It's kind of like she gets hit in the face and just kind of loses all technique and just goes out there and makes some green mistakes. She has good cardio. I'll give her that. It's just her young fighting style. Her jiu-jitsu's good. It's really good. But so is Eggers. So I don't know if she's going to be able to tap her out just like everyone else. Is she just going to get dominated? I don't really see her getting finished, but Egger only wins by finish. It's an overall weird fight, but I think it's pretty 50-50. And one girl is 23 in her second ever fight in the UFC. The other woman is 33 years old, grown adult, and has had like 5 or 6 fights in the UFC. So I think we might see a vet lesson here, and that's the only reason I'm going to Egger. She's stronger. She has more experience. She might teach her a lesson. So the pick is going to be Stephanie Egger. The bet's going to be Stephanie Egger. Women's MMA, give me the plus money. I'm not taking plus money here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because we broke down this fight last week. We have Steve Garcia at plus 235 going up against Malquazel Costa at minus 290. Over 1.5 is minus 105. Under 1.5 minus 125. Steve Garcia's killer be killed. I'll give you a really short synopsis. Again, we went over this last week. Steve Garcia hits extremely hard, can knock anyone out in the weight class. Here's the deal. This fight is not happening at 145 like it was supposed to last time. This fight's happening at 155. And it's happening at 155 because last week Steve Garcia botched his weight cut and fell ill and was not able to compete. And now 1 week later, he's going to fight. Like, it seems suspect. Malquazel on the other side, he's not a one-hitter quitter. So it's kind of tough because Steve Garcia either knocks you out or gets knocked out. Can Costa knock out Garcia? Absolutely. Will he? Yeah, probably. He's just the cleaner striker. He will mix in wrestling, as Garcia does, but Garcia's takedown defense is not good. Garcia's jiu-jitsu is only okay. Costa's the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. So at the end of the day, Steve Garcia, it probably helps him that it's at 155 this week. I don't like that from Malquazel, but he's had a few fights at 155, so I'm not as concerned. It's not like he's going up 2 weight classes to fight Steve Garcia. They've both fought at 155 before. Malquazel's the better striker. He's the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. The wrestling's a wash. Steve Garcia hits harder. That's it. So at the end of the day, I'll take the technique over the power, just because Steve Garcia is a glass cannon. Because if you crack him, as much as he can put you out, you can put him out. So never bet a man that got knocked down by Charlie Ontiveros multiple times. So the pick is going to be Malquazel. The bet's going to be Malquazel. Next fight, I need you to not turn off the podcast because shit's about to get wild. We have Hyun Sung Park at minus 550 going up against Shannon Ross at plus 410. Over 1.5 is plus 135. Under 1.5 at minus 175. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hung Seung Park is not that good. He is predominantly a grappler, although people thinks he's a striker because he hits hard and you see him drop people. He gets dropped all the time himself. His chin's a little questionable. He got dropped in his last fight. He got dropped in the fight before that. Like, he gets dropped all the time. Like, it's not new. And again, most of his wins are by decision. He's fighting over on the Asian regional scene, which is not the greatest. At the end of the day, he's only 6-0, so he doesn't have a ton of experience. He is a decent striker, but he just throws real low volume, and he's really, really patient. I talked about Ryan throwing a whole bunch of feints out there. He throws even more feints. Like, he does not swing. He just throws feint after feint after feint and eventually try to catch you with something. He looks fine when he's moving forward, but when you back him up, he looks very uncomfortable. His cardio seems to check out. And again, in his last fight, I thought he was losing the fight. He was a big favorite in that fight. He was like minus 300, minus 400 in that fight. People are high on this kid. I don't think he's that good. I mean, 6 pro fights, getting dropped in half of them, being a minus 600 favorite in your UFC debut. I don't know. I know he fought in one road to the UFC or whatever it was, but I don't really count that. This is his debut. And his wrestling's not that good. For someone that's really good on jiu-jitsu, he's not that good as a wrestler. So you're forced to strike. And when he's striking, he's low volume. It's just a lot of negatives about this guy. The only reason he's minus 600 is because he's fighting Shannon Ross. I think Shannon Ross is the better striker. I think Shannon Ross is the better wrestler. Jiu-jitsu, I think it's a wash. I guess you could lean towards the Park side. Cardio-wise, it's a complete wash. Shannon Ross has great cardio. He might have better cardio. The concern with Shannon Ross is that he legitimately, I am not being facetious, I'm not being sarcastic, worst chin in UFC history. It's bad. It's really, really, really bad. He has 3 fights in the UFC, and all 3 he lost by knockout. He lost to Jesus Aguilar, who has 0 knockouts on his record up until the time he fought Shannon Ross, knocked him out in 17 seconds. The man who's never knocked out a soul knocked him out in 17 seconds. Clinton Rodriguez knocked him out with his ass. Like, he literally threw a flying butt strike and knocked out Shannon Ross. Like, it's bad. His chin is bad. On the Mount Rushmore, every podcast they talk about the people with the worst chins in UFC history, and they say the same names. Shannon Ross is a top. Obviously, the next name they always say is Jason Witt, which is true. But you know who's after that? I got Malcolm Gordon. Malcolm Gordon's chin is trash. And then I don't even know after that. I don't know who the 4th bad chin would be, but Shannon Ross stands alone at the mountain. It's bad. Even when you go to his regional scene, he's getting knocked out. So he's fought good competition. I mean, he's fighting Steve Ursig in the regional scene. Like, he's fighting decent guys. It's just his chin, man. God, he's good. He's good everywhere. He just can't take a punch. Lucky for him, Park doesn't fucking throw. All he does is feint the whole time. So I know Ross is getting sacrificed. Again, this fight was supposed to be in China. They were trying to hype up Park and give him a highlight reel KO. Well, now Park has to fly across the world. He literally has to fly across the globe to fight Shannon Ross in a UFC Apex with 0 fans. I don't know, man. Shannon Ross is the better fighter. He just has no chin. Do you want to trust it? Fuck no. Do you want to trust Park at minus 550 or whatever he is? What is he? Minus 550? Absolutely not. There is not a shot I'm betting it. Do you want to put your hard-earned money on Shannon Ross? Not really. But at plus 410, they're making me. I hate it. Please don't turn off the podcast. But the bet is going to be Ross. Yeah, the pick is going to be Park because Ross can get KO'd if he breathes heavy on him. But the bet's going to have to be Ross. Plus 410. They're tempting me, and I'm going to take the bait. I'm going to take it. I'm going to do it on the next fight, too. Kanan Song, plus 120, going up against Kevin Josette at minus 140. Over 2.5, minus 105. Under 2.5, minus 125. There are certain fights where you look at it and you are shocked on the odds. This is one, man. Kanan Song being the dog I did not see coming. He's not the greatest fighter in the world. Don't get me wrong. Don't hear what I'm not saying. He's a pretty good striker. He doesn't throw as much as I'd like him to, and his chin isn't as good for someone that's predominantly a striker. But his level of competition, man. I mean, he fought Israel Adesanya. He fought Ian Gary. He fought Brad Riddell. He fought Alex Morono. Like, he's fighting good guys. Max Griffin. Even Bedoya in his last fight. Like, these guys are really, really, really good. My problem is he's a little hittable. For someone that's predominantly a striker, you shouldn't be getting more than you're dishing out. His cardio checks out. He doesn't even really slow down at all, but that's because he's not throwing a ton. 62% takedown defense is not good. That's not the greatest look, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, he's predominantly a striker. He's fighting another, I guess, striker. I don't really know what to call it just that. Well, we'll get to that. But Song, I don't like, but it was supposed to be in China. They're trying to get your boy a win. Who could he possibly beat? And they're doing a reverse of what they did last time for Josette. Last time, Josette fought, it was in Australia. Where does he train? Australia. He trains at City Kickboxing. City Kickboxing literally has kickboxing in their name. They are known for their stand-up. Israel Adesanya, the aforementioned Brad Riddell, Shane Young, uh, Alexander Volkanovski. All these guys are phenomenal strikers. Except for Josette. Josette can't really strike. He's not that good at it. He has a nice little jab. That's about it. That's all I really see from him. He'll have a forward reach advantage here, so he'll definitely be able to use that jab. But he doesn't throw a ton of power, and that's the thing. Song, when you beat him, you knock him out. Josette doesn't really have power, so what's he gonna do? Submit him? I guess he could. His jiu-jitsu is okay, but his wrestling isn't good. So how's he going to get the fight to the ground? I know Song has 62% takedown defense, but just sets 9-2. He doesn't have a ton of experience. When you look at the guys he fought, I mean, their records aren't great. He hasn't really fought anybody. I mean, 2-0, 1-0, 3-1, 0-0, 8-4. Okay. He lost to 6-2. I don't know. 0-1. He's not fighting good guys. And in his first fight in the UFC, they gave him Kuiper Crosby because, again, they gave him the worst possible guy that they could find. Both these fighters making their professional debut. Why? Because they want Josette to get a win in front of his City Kickboxing fans in Australia. Well, they were supposed to go to China. So now they want Song to get a win. Who can they give? They give someone that's pretty bad on his level. They're telling you Josette is bad. That's what the UFC matchmaking is literally telling you. So if you have two bad fighters going at it, and one of them is plus 120, the plus 120 was supposed to have the crowd. He doesn't have any more, but he still has the experience. And last thing, I think about Dom Cruz when he fought all of Team Alpha Male. He beat Uriah Faber. He beat Joseph Benavidez. He beat God, who was the other one? TJ Dillashaw. Then he lost to Cody Garbrandt, the one that no one really expected. We have a reverse situation here with Kenan Song. He can't beat City Kickboxing. He lost to Brad Riddell. He lost to Izzy Adesanya. Now he gets Josette, the worst of all of them. Let's get the job done, Song. So the pick is going to be Kenan Song. The bet is going to be Kenan Song. Let's get it. All right. Next fight of the night is a and somewhere along the way in the middle of this card, I just started going dog hunting. I think it's a sheer dog or pass situation yet again. We have Andre Muniz at plus 150 going up against Jung Young Park at minus 180. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 165. Under 1.5 at plus 130. We can go ahead and start with Andre Muniz because there's not a ton to say about this guy. He's a little overrated, but the odds are starting to catch up to the fact that he's overrated. World-class jiu-jitsu on the ground. He's really, really, really good on the ground. But that's all he has. He's pretty one-dimensional, to be honest with you. His wrestling's okay. His striking's not half bad. We saw it in his last fight, or not last fight, second to last fight against Brendan Allen. It was a competitive striking affair for most of that first round, and I kind of thought he won, to be honest with you, the first round. Problem with Andre Muniz is, one, his cardio was atrocious. We saw him gas out in his last fight in the second round. We saw him gas out the fight before that in the third round. We saw him gas out in the contender series, or not contender series, the fight, his first UFC fight against Antonio Arroyo. We've seen this man gas out time and time again. Only times he didn't gas out is when he was getting first round submissions. He looked great when he tapped out Eric Anders in one round, when he tapped out Ronaldo Souza in one round, when he tapped out Bartosz Fabinski in one round. But if you get that man to the second round, he fades. It's not good. The other problem with him is that he has zero chin whatsoever. Knocked out by Paul Craig. He got knocked out by Asmat Marikhanov in 50 seconds. He got knocked out by Julio Cesar Santos. Like, all of his losses are by KO, until he got so tired against Brendan Allen that he got submitted. So I don't know. He's been finished in all of his losses because he just flat gasses out. He flatlines, just like Alan Carr earlier in the card. Great jiu-jitsu, terrible cardio, can't really be trusted. And you accompany that with a bad chin, that's not good. I do like that he has a 5-inch reach advantage here. Maybe he can keep Park at bay, but Park's a little pressure cooker, man. He's someone that likes to charge forward and kind of get your attention. It's hard to just paw and stay away from him because he's a dog and he's getting in your face. I mean, he has good striking. His wrestling's okay. His jujitsu's okay. He's rocking a 70% takedown defense, 69% to be exact. His volume's pretty decent. His cardio's great. He's pretty durable. He's only been knocked out once in his career. And he has 5 losses, but they're the good guys. Gregory Robocop Rodriguez, Fluffy Hernandez, Shavkat Rachmanov. Like, those are not shameful 3 losses at all. Like, all those guys are top 10 in their weight class. So Park's an actually pretty good fighter. Again, the problem is the 70 or 69% takedown defense. That's not good because if Muniz gets him down to the ground, I noticed something. And when I heard Cody at Dogger Pass say it, I knew that I had to bet Muniz. I thought it was just me that noticed that Park always gives up his back. Uriah Faber style. The way he stands up is by giving up his back, turtling, Iron Turtle, and then literally just standing up. Do not give your back to a 3rd-degree black belt on the ground. That is a terrible idea. But I've physically never seen him get up any other way. If he gives his back to Muniz, he's probably going to lose. So it's a matter of, can he keep this fight on the feet? 69% takedown defense. Muniz is not the greatest wrestler. If that man gets him down somehow, the fight is over. If he can't get him down, the fight is over. Park is going to knock him out in the first round. So I kind of lean the under more than anything, under 1.5 at plus 130. I don't hate that at all. As far as a pick, it's going to be Park. The bet, it's going to be Muniz, or it's going to be that under. The more I look at it, plus 150 compared to plus 130, and you can get both sides of the coin. I think I like the under better. So I'm going to totally recant what I said about betting Muniz, and I'm going to pick Park, and I'm going to bet the under 1.5 at plus money. Don't hate it. Right. Next fight of the night, we have Nasrat Haqparast at minus 205 going up against Jamie Malarkey at plus 170. Over 2.5 is minus 220, under 2.5 at plus 170. Let's start with Nasrat because I don't understand the love for Nasrat. Everyone loves him. He's always a huge favorite, and I just have not seen any growth, man. He came into the UFC super young. He's what, 28 years old now. His first UFC fight was back in 2017. So we're looking at 6 years ago. So he was 22 when he came into the UFC. Super young. Future ahead of him. He had the world to take. And he's never gotten any better. I don't know. He has good striking. The schedule is pretty decent. He fought Drew Dober. He fought Mark Diakiese. Marcin Held's not bad. Dan Hooker, Bobby Green. Like, these are good fighters. His volume's good. It's really high. He threw like 170 strikes his last fight, or significant strikes his last fight. I don't know, man. He's just not getting any better. You can back him up a little. I don't like that. And he's a decisionator. Like, all of his wins are by decision. He doesn't really have any stinging power. He knocked out Joaquim Silva, but Neto BJJ does not have a chin, so can't really say much there. Outside of that, that's his only knockout. That's his only finish in the UFC. He's fought for 5 years, 6 years, has 1 knockout. That's concerning. He's good. I don't know what to say. He's good. He's just not improving. He's one-dimensional. You know what you're getting. He's kind of like, oh God help me. He's a boxing heavy male version of Caitlin Chukagian. Death taxes and Chukagian by decision. That's how it is for fucking Haqparast. He's gonna always win by decision, or he's getting finished by Drew Dober. Dan Hooker was able to piece him up, and that's the thing that scares me the most. Dan Hooker took him down 3 times. Dan Hooker. I don't know if he just wasn't expecting it. I know his mom died right before that fight. They had the issues with getting the work visas, and they both had to cut weight on the plane. There was a lot of stuff going on with that fight, so I'll give him a little bit of a pass. But getting taken down 3 times by Dan Hooker, no matter what, is a bad look. And I looked over across his record. Alex Munoz is a pretty decent wrestler. He took him down once. Rafa Garcia is a decent wrestler, took him down a few times. No one else he fought can wrestle. So why it's at 78%, not too sure. But whatever. That's enough on Nazareth Akparas. Other side, Jamie Malarkey, I'll never be able to bet. I don't like Jamie Malarkey. He's another city kickboxer. Only he's on the same level as Gisette. I know that American Top Team has like their A team and their B team. Jamie Malarkey and Gisette would be the B team for city kickboxing. They're not that good. This man is a generalist. He has okay wrestling. His jiu-jitsu is we don't see a lot of it, honestly. His striking's okay. It's not bad. I have a 2-inch reach advantage here, which is nice, especially if it's a striking matchup. He has seemingly really good cardio. The problem with him is that he has no chin whatsoever. Like if you touch him, he goes out. It's very, very scary. He's had a few losses in the UFC. Naimov is a 145 pounder, knocked him out. Jalen Turner is an animal, knocked him out. Brad Riddell. Let's see, even some of his wins, like he beat Michael Johnson, and he dropped so bad. I thought they were going to stop the fight. Francisco Prado is a 20-year-old kid making a short notice debut. He dropped him, although he still won the fight. Devontae Smith dropped him. I thought they could have stopped the fight, but he continued on and ultimately won the fight. So even some of these wins, he's getting dropped or rocked, and it's very concerning. He's okay everywhere, but his chin is terrible. Now, he is teammates with Dan Hooker, and Dan Hooker just beat Akparas like a year ago, so they'll have a game plan established for him. It does scare me. I do think JB Malarkey is live to an extent, and then every single time I think he's live, I watch a fight and watch him get rocked, especially the ones where he wins and you forget how badly hurt he was. Michael Johnson, I forgot how close that fight was to being stopped. Like I totally forgot. Because you just see Jamie with the win. You can't Wikipedia Jamie Malarkey. You have to watch the fights, and he is in trouble all the time. And his last fight against John McDessie, I know MMA math is nothing, but he just fought John McDessie. Nazareth's second to last fight was John McDessie. Nazareth dominated John McDessie. Malarkey did not. That was a close fight. I know it was a unanimous decision win for Jamie. I locked Jamie that night. I think McDessie might have won. I think he might have got screwed a little bit. He does like to go forward, and again, Hackworth's going to be backed up, so I don't like that. But although Malarkey's live to an extent, I can't trust him, and especially that chin. I know he's fighting a decisionator, but Hackpress, man, he's the better striker. I'm going to give it to him. So the pick is going to be Nazareth. The bet's going to be Nazareth Hackpress. Next fight's another weird. I keep forgetting to go over the weight classes for some of these fights. This one's a weird one too. We have Tim Elliott going up against Sumanderji. They're gonna be fighting here at 135. Sumanderji and Tim are both flyweights. The reason it's at 135 is because Tim Elliott's taken this fight on like 5 days notice. Tim Elliott, we'll start with him. He had his last loss to Makayev, but he looked good, man. It was a really, really close fight against Makayev up until he got choked out in the third round. But he looked good, man. He has good wrestling. He has good jiu-jitsu. He's 36 years old, so he's towards the end of his career. His cardio's been hit or miss. I've seen it look great. I've seen him gas out. It depends on which Tim Elliott shows up. Again, this one's taking it on a week's notice, so that's a little concerning. I can't say his striking is good or bad. It's original. No one can do it besides Amanda Ribas. Him and Amanda Ribas kind of have the same striking style, and no one else can duplicate it. It's very herky, jerky, weird. I don't know how to describe it. It's one of a kind, baby. Yeah, he's not a bad fighter at all. It's just his cardio is hit or miss. And he's fighting on 4 days notice, so I don't like that. It makes me feel like it's going to be his bad cardio, but it's up a weight class at 135 against a fellow 125 pounder, so it's weird, man. I don't know what condition he's showing up in. Sumanderji, you get the same version every time, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage here, which is nice. His striking's good. It's pretty decent. His volume's good. He's very quick and he fights long. A lot of guys are tall, but like Royval is tall, but he fights short. A lot of these guys do that. And I love Raw Dog, but that's just something he does. Sumanderji's not. He's tall, he's lanky, and he fights long and lanky. He's really, really good at distance, and he knows how to measure his distance extremely well. He's so good at fighting long. He's a pretty decent striker because of that. Where he has issues, his ground game, atrocious. It's not bad. It's worse than bad. The guy has 5 career losses. He has been submitted. All 5 of his losses by submission. And not only is he bad on the ground, not hard to get him there. 66% takedown defense. So you can't be bad at wrestling and bad on the ground, buddy. That's not a good combination to have. I like Sumanderji. I like him in most of his matchups, but again, most of his matchups they gave him Zaruk Adashev, who only knows how to strike. Malcolm Gordon, who we had talked about having one of the worst chins and knocked him out in 40 seconds. They gave him Andre's predominantly a striker. So he's fighting all these strikers, and he fights anyone with wrestling. Luis Smoka has a ground game into wrestle, took him down. Matt Chanel, that was a war. It was fight of the year. But as soon as Matt Chanel took him down with ease, he submitted him with ease. Like he went through his guard like butter. Like it's like nothing was even there. So it's very concerning. On paper, Elliott should go out there, take down Sumanderji, and submit him. But what version of Elliott are we getting? We're getting 135, 1 week notice, Elliott. He's going to probably go out there, probably going to try to take him down early and get the submission early. There is a chance because he had 0 training, he might gas out trying to do that early. I think that could happen, or he could get the sub. Sumanderji's not good on the ground. He could get the sub when he tries it. So I don't know. It's weird. And Sumanderji was training for Alon Nascimento. I was all over Nascimento. That was one of my locks. Nascimento fights kind of similar when it comes to the wrestling and ground game than Tim Elliott. So Sumanderji has been training for a grappler. He gets a replacement grappler with the worst gas tank. So Sue is live. Sumanderji is very live. Do I want to put money on him? I can't. I got to go with the favorite with Tim Elliott for right now. And part of that is because I have yet another dog I'm chasing in the next fight. We have Khalil Roundtree minus 240 going up against Anthony Smith at plus 195. Over 1.5 is plus 100, under 1.5 at minus 130. The reason I'm betting Anthony Smith is because of the line, plus 195. Otherwise, I'm staying away. I think Anthony Smith, on paper, what is he, 35, 36? He is 35 years old. In fight years, he's 65. Like the dude is like, he has over 50 pro fights. Like it's insane. The dude needs to stop fighting. He has way too many fights. His striking's okay. His jiu-jitsu is good. His wrestling's not great. It's pretty bad. He's declining for sure. His last fight, he looked kind of slow and lethargic against Ryan Spann. Got a split win. I had money on Anthony Smith. I did not think he won that fight. Fight before that, he got picked apart by Johnny Walker, dropped multiple times, was not a good look. Fight before that, he broke his leg against Magomed Ankalaev. His body is shutting down on him physically. He might mentally be there, try to establish a game plan, but his body is physically shutting down on him. On the other side, we have Khalil Roundtree, where it's the complete opposite. His body is with it. His mind is not. No fault to Khalil Roundtree. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I am not making fun of Khalil. I respect the guy for talking about his mental issues, but you can see it. You can see when Khalil shows up on wants to fight, and you can see when Khalil just mentally breaks and doesn't want to be there. Khalil is his striking's okay. It's just his power. The dude hits like a truck. If he touches you, you go out. He has like that Francis Ngannou level power. Problem is his takedown defense is at 56%. And you're looking at his nice little run here that he's had as of late. He fought Chris Dawkins, who doesn't wrestle and did not shoot a takedown. Dustin Jacoby, who doesn't wrestle, did not shoot a takedown. And for honestly, I thought Jacoby won that fight, got screwed in that split. Carl Robeson does not wrestle and did not attempt a takedown. Modestas Bukakas does not wrestle, did not attempt a takedown. So if he's upright and just striking with guys, he can put them out. He can knock them out. He can even land power shots and steal a split decision. If you take him down, Ion Kutalaba style, you're in trouble because he has zero ground game and 56% takedown defense. And he doesn't have cardio. He slows down all the time. So that's a little concerning. Johnny Walker just flat knocked him out. Michael Olean-Chaychuk was able to take him down and destroy him. Tyson Pedro took him down and submitted him. Like he has Andrew Sanchez took him down and decisioned him. He has nothing to offer once he gets on the ground. Like he does not know what to do on the ground. That's concerning. Can Anthony Smith, who's a black belt, get it to the ground? I don't know. He's not a good wrestler, and he's also taking this on short notice. So I don't know. Anthony Smith, if you're that old, you know this is your last run. Do you want to take a short notice fight that you aren't confident you're going to win? No. In his last fights against Johnny Walker and Ryan Spann, did he attempt a takedown? Yeah, that's positive to me. Him knowing that they're fast, twitchy strikers and can knock him out, and him at least attempting those takedowns makes me feel good about the Anthony Smith bet. Problem is, he didn't get them because he can't wrestle. He knows what he has to do. His body just can't physically do some of this stuff. So, as long as he can survive round one, I'm all in on Anthony Smith, unsadly. So, the pick is going to be Anthony Smith. The bet's going to be Anthony Smith, and I do not feel great about it. Right, next fight of the night is the last fight. So if you're still rocking with me after choosing Shannon Ross, do go ahead and hit that follow button, hit subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We have our main event of the evening, Song Yadong, minus 380, going up against Chris Gutierrez, plus 300. Over 3.5 minus 150, under 3.5 plus 120. I'll tell you that underdog chasing is going to stop here with Song Yadong. Song Yadong should absolutely dominate this fight. He's fought the better guys. He has a really good schedule. He has really good striking, hits extremely hard. Unlike Nazareth Akras, he came in at a really young age, and you see improvement fight after fight after fight. The Song Yadong that lost to Kyler Phillips is not the same Song Yadong that fought Ricky Simone his last fight. Dude is a slow starter. Not a fan of that. But his wrestling is good. His volume's good. His cardio is this is his second, fifth round or third 5-round fight. His cardio's good, 72% takedown defense, and that's improved as of late. He's just improving each time out there, and he'll march forward, he'll pressure you, and he'll just land some shots, knocking out his last few opponents, knocking out Ricky Simone, knocking out Marlon Moraes, knocking out Julio Archer. He's just going out there and getting the job done. So I don't know. He's a really, really, really good striker. On the flip side, Chris Gutierrez, I do like Chris Gutierrez. His level of competition is nowhere near what Song Yadong has been fighting. He has good he has good striking and good leg kicks. He throws a ton of leg kicks. Only problem is if you pressure him, he can't throw the kicks and he kind of panics. He kicks more than he punches. And if you crowd the kicker, he does panic. We saw it in the Pedro Munoz fight. We saw it in the Denab back to Ralph fight. I watched that fight live, had money on Chris Gutierrez, and said, oh, fuck, we're losing this fight. Denab was in his face, big Asian power striker, the same exact thing Song is, was pressuring him, was killing him. And then Chris Gutierrez hit a Hail Mary with the spinning back fist and knocked out Dana. Song, I don't think he's ever been knocked out, so I don't think that's going to work. I don't think his leg kicks are going to work. His wrestling's not that great, and his jiu-jitsu, if you take him down, he can't get up. Cody Durden 10-8'd him by taking him down and holding him down, and that's a flyweight. So I don't know. His jiu-jitsu is not good. His wrestling 70% takedown defense. You can back him up, and that's not good because Song likes to pressure forward. And this is his first ever 5-rounder, so we don't know how he's going to react here. Just and this fight again was supposed to be in China. Song is from China. They were trying to boost up their guy. They brought Chris in to lose, and that's why Song is minus 380. Chris is a good fighter. He's always going to be live because it's going to be a striking contest. But if Song is struggling, he can take Chris down. If Song is getting hit with too many kicks, he can pressure him, and he likes pressuring anyway. Everything's just kind of pointing towards Song. So the pick is going to be Song Yadong. The bet's going to be Song Yadong. And that's UFC Vegas 83. It's going to be a weird one. There's a whole bunch of dogs. You might have to spam a bunch of them to win money, but it only takes a few to get that job done, baby. Let's get it.